because it is fatally flawed. Why? Because their system can't recognize a living man and living woman. And if you have seen a document stamped, signed, sealed and delivered based on the UCADIA knowledge, now stolen and used by others using these terms, then those terms will cause those documents to fail. Why can't they recognize a living man and living woman? Because their entire system is based on converting us all into fictions. So this, unfortunately, is causing great harm, because not only is the information being misused, but it is incorporating people's philosophies which are fatal. In fact, you don't need to be recognized as a living man and living woman. That is the craziness. The remedy you need, the only key remedy you need, apart from stopping your home from being taken, is to ensure that you are recognized on the public record as the occupant of the Office of General Executor. If they recognize you are the occupant of the Office of General Executor, then you can control the court proceedings. You can walk into those court proceedings if you have to. Normally you shouldn't, because they are presuming the role of being either agents or presuming the role of being trustees. And as General Executor, you are the sovereign of your own domain. You are sovereign of your own domain, your own estate. So all this use of living man and living woman by people who have stolen information and are claiming it as their own without any provenance to it is unfortunately going to, and has already started to, create enormous damage, because it is a distraction away from what is relevant and what is doable in their system. The system will concede, if you get it on the public record, that you are the occupant of the Office of General Executor. And that is what you need to do, understanding that the system is based on estates, on testamentary trusts and the estates within them, the res within them, created by the Roman cult. What do you think we've been doing for a whole year here? We've been working to collapse the master trusts of the Roman cult. It's been out in the open. Every week we talk about it. That's what we've been doing. June the 12th, a number of you, many of you, helped in participating on the Feast of Pentecost in the collapsing of, the termination of, Romanus Pontifex, the Roman pontiff, the first testamentary trust that was created after Unum Sanctum, the first master trust ever created in 1302. So in 1455, when it was created Romanus Pontifex, that is the testamentary trust that was created for by the Roman pontiff, for the Roman pontiff and for the Roman cult. Well, we issued the documents and collapsed that. Then we moved on August the 15th, the anniversary of the creation of the Jesuits, to collapse Eterni Regis, the second of the great testamentary trust, the master trust, in which all trusts and the entire system is built. All of it is built. And you helped on August the 15th for that collapsing. And now, coming to almost 500 years since Martin Luther issued his 95 Thesis, we will complete the job in the collapsing of the third and the final Master Trust Convocation, created in 1537, and the creation of the system that we are dealing with today. So it's extremely unhelpful when people not only come and steal information and claim it as their own, that's fine, but when they then mix it with their own belief system and then send it out there so people are signing living man and living woman documents. When what we are trying to do is restore the law as was promised, as is foretold, as is prophesied, and complete the job which we started many, many years ago. So there is a provenance when we speak about these things. within UCADIA. There always is a provenance when we speak to these things in UCADIA. And if someone can't tell you the provenance, then that gives you a hint. If someone says to you, I discovered this because I found it in Bouvier's and Blackstone's. Utter rubbish. There is nothing in Bouvier. There is nothing in Blackstone. There is nothing in Blacks that gives you a hint as to how their system is designed. Do you know why there are keys in Blacks? Why there are symbols of keys? Because without the key, the information there is meaningless. And no one can go to that information and make sense of it unless you have the key. They do not give you that key. If someone says that they're an out-and-out liar, and hopefully we can distinguish between people who are either paid and deliberate disinformation agents or people who become that because they allow their egos to reign supreme and they mash up the information. I am sick to death of disinformation agents. I'm sick to death of the parasites. And in fact, tonight we're going to make sure that we don't call them parasites anymore because they're not worthy of being called parasites. They're not parasites, they're parasitoids. And I'm going to refer you to Jesuitopedia, or Wikipedia, and I want you to go and have a look up the definition of parasitoid. That's P-A-R-A-S-I-T-O-I-D, parasitoid. That is what we're talking about when we talk about the Ashkenazi, the Sabbateans, these elite families, these people who even today refuse to wake up. The parasitoids. Why? Let's just read the top of it. A parasitoid is an organism that spends a significant portion of its life history attached to or within a single host organism in a relationship that is in essence parasitic. Unlike a true parasite, however, it ultimately sterilizes or kills and consumes the host. What the author didn't add on that definition is the obvious. If the host is killed and the parasite is still living in there, or the parasitoid is still living there, then the parasitoid has committed suicide. And that is why we need to call them parasitoids, because not only are they feeding off us, but ultimately they are quite prepared to commit suicide than see a healing. It is not a symbiotic relationship. The banks are not looking at sustainability. The banks are gouging us to the point that the banks will kill themselves. And that is exactly what is happening in Europe, and that is exactly what's happening in America, and is unstoppable. They are parasitoids who will kill us and themselves before they'll see any change. And I hope and pray that the people who support them, who work for the elite, those that are called the Knights, the K-Knights, or the Shabbos Goy, will wake up and realize that you're dealing with insane people that will kill them, their family, their children, and everybody else. There is no symbiotic relationship. Well, that's enough about deeds and people misusing information. Let's move on. Let's talk about birth certificates and promissory notes and what we can do when we have our will and testament recorded, and most importantly, we have notice of the appointment of the office of executor recorded, the existence of our role as the occupant of the office of general executor recorded. A number of you have already come back and proven to us that we are not able to, at certain levels of the county recorders in America, and quite possibly at a state or provincial level in other countries, to get our will and testament recorded. Even though the corporate codes state an obvious absurdity that one cannot record a will unless it is admitted into probate. Think about that. One cannot record a will unless it is admitted to probate. What is probate? Probate is the proving of a claim in the absence of a will. That's what probate is. Now, it's deliberately obscured in Blacks and Bouvier, so same text that some people say you can find answers, but in those texts, it's deliberately obscured because probate ultimately, a probate court ultimately only exists because there is no recorded will. And so claims go into that court against the estate and are determined by the judge sitting there appointed in an ecclesiastical position by the archbishop, by the clergy, to perform the role of executor dative. So here in these county offices, they have the absurd and untenable claim that you can't get a will recorded unless there is no will, unless there is proof of no will. So, I mean, I don't know how they got that there, but that's what they've got. So, it may end up being that we have to fall back to the older parts of their system where they do acknowledge how the proof of the existence of a will is acknowledged, and that is acknowledged in what they call publishing. That the system is prepared to acknowledge that the publishing of a notice is sufficient in a gazette to the existence of a will. So by publishing, we can then record our notice based on that publication to the appointment of the Office of Executor. So how would it work? It turns out that the London Gazette was one of the traditional forums as a gazette for the publishing of the notice of the recording of a will, the existence of a will. So when a will has been perfected and notarized, a notice can be published in a gazette, like the London Gazette, to say that a will has been perfected on this day before these witnesses and notarized and duly notarized, and that is sufficient, it appears, albeit we still don't have all the proof in front of us, but that appears to be sufficient in their system, that the publication of the existence of a will is sufficient. And then what we can do is then record notice of the appointment of the Office of General Executor, referring to that public notice to overcome the obstacle that at a state and indeed at a county level, they will not let us record the notice of the existence of will. Because whenever they see the word will, the hackles get up. And you've already proven, a number of you already proven the difficulty of that step. Now, why is this important? Well, it's important for a number of reasons. I mean, it's important if you have any dispute at the moment, because once you've got on the public record proof of the existence of the appointment of General Executor, then you can begin to act in the office and role of General Executor. And we have spoken at length in the last few weeks of the power of the Office of General Executor. We mentioned the fact that if one is a General Executor of their own estate, then you are sovereign of your own estate. You are head of state. And it is why we state in our will and testament that we are an ally of the Queen of Great Britain and Commonwealth, so we can call on our ally to assist us if we face subjects and corporate agents that are not performing their job properly. Also, if we are dealing with a probate court, clearly there cannot be a probate court if there is a will. And clearly the appointment ecclesiastically of a probate court to deal with a matter of our estate when there is on the public record the existence of a General Executor is a serious breach of fiduciary duties on their behalf. And clearly they have no jurisdiction whatsoever, none, to act on those points. And anyone that is sitting in there in a role of executor is absolutely at risk of being an executor sans tort. So there's enormous power in being the office of general.